very important program used especially by non-programmers for data analysis. And so if you don't have analytical skills, the use of SPSS, the programming skills, you can easily use SPSS to be able to do analysis without necessarily the programming skills. And it's important for us to indicate that SPSS is just one of the statistical softwares that we use for data analysis. There are many of them. We have R, which is highly utilized, especially by programmers. We have Starter, we have Minitab, and a whole lot of programs that we use. But now, for us, the main program we'll use for our analysis in this class, as I've already indicated, will be SPSS. That is the main program that we use. And we're using SPSS because it's user-friendly. It means you don't need to have advanced computer skills or advanced programming skills to be able to use the program. And so the program is very friendly and anybody can use it. So as you will notice, even without the programming skills, even without previous skills in data analysis, with some basic computer knowledge, you'll be able to run statistical analysis and run them very well. So assuming that we all have SPSS, I want to take us now to the key important parts of how SPSS function. And so let me open up the program. If you can see, I hope you are seeing my screen. In case there is any problem, you can indicate in the platform, or you can write through the chat. So if there is anybody who has a challenge, person can just get to us using the platform. So I will want to start by bringing up this example to help us. And this is our outline for today. Today we'll be able to see how you can start SPSS. I know all of us, we have installed the program. So if you have not installed the program, you can just indicate in the WhatsApp platform that you don't have the program, let me know, or you indicate under. But I expect that you should have the program so that you should be able to follow the class and follow well. Now we'll be able to see how to open SPSS. You see the different views found in SPSS: variable view, we have the data view and the usage. We'll be able to import data from different platforms. We do some few exercises, and at the end of the day, we should be able to even run some basic descriptive statistics. I will share the data as the class progresses. So let's get started. To start the class, I want us to look at this example that you're a researcher and you've collected data. Now, your data that you want to find out, you want to investigate the extent to which some Cameroonians agree that the government of Cameroon should increase spending in areas like ICT, education, and agriculture. Those are three areas that the government is considering to make some changes, and you have been hired as a research consultant. And so as a research consultant, you are expected to carry out this study, make analysis, and make recommendations. And so let's take this to be your instrument. You have your instrument, which you've used to collect the data. In this particular case, what we have is the questionnaire. You have your questionnaire, and so the questionnaire contains 5 questions in all. The first question talks about the gender of the respondent. The second talks about the age of the respondent. The third has to do with questions related to the study objective. One of the objectives is to what extent do Cameroonians agree that the government should increase spending in ICT? To what extent, which is the second, do Cameroonians agree that the government should increase spending in education? And the last objective is to identify or to be able to ascertain the extent to which Cameroonians will or do agree that the government should increase spending in the domains of agriculture. So let's assume that this is your questionnaire that you've used to collect data. With this questionnaire, what you need to do is that the first part, when you must have sent out the questionnaire and you've collected the data, is to do what we call coding. Yes, it's to do what we call coding. And coding basically allows you to be able to get the data from the questionnaires onto your software. Coding means you have to assign some codes to your responses so that you can now input it in your application. And there are different applications we can use for coding. You can use a normal Excel, you can use SPSS to input your data directly. Excuse me. So you can use any of the applications. So the first stage of your analysis is to prepare what we call a code guide or a code book. And this is basically a document that allows you to be able to do what? To input your data. It allows you to assign codes to your data. And these codes are like identification techniques or tools that you'll be able to use. And so once you have your data arranged, this is an example of a code guide that you can use. So if I go back to my instrument, I have the first variable, which is gender. Now, gender is a variable, as we earlier indicated in our previous class. Gender is a variable because it has the potential to take on more than one values. And the values here are male and female. It makes it a variable. The next is age. Now, with age, you discover that the ages differ. And so ages are measured, age is measured in ages. And there are three things there is one thing you need to note about data analysis. Before you even get to the point of analyzing your data, you discover that the first stage is for you to be able to understand the level of measurements, as we indicated in the previous class. The levels of measurement are very, very important for a data analyst. You need to understand the levels of measurement so that you can be able to correctly analyze your data. Now, in our previous class, I think one of the variables we did see was gender. And we said gender is nominal. Gender is nominal simply because gender has the potential to take on variables which are not in any way ordered, do not have anything to do with an absolute distance. You cannot say male is in any way greater than female, or you want to classify that we have any quantification to make male. They're just attributes. Another example is color. If you see something like color, it's still an attribute, which means we red, black, white, yellow. You can lie, you may prefer red, another person prefer black. And there is no way you think that because you prefer red, you are better than somebody who takes black, right? So we have to understand it from that perspective. So it gives us a variable measurement known as nominal. And so because it's nominal, we have to assign codes to it. Assigning codes for nominal variables or categorical variable is possible because we have what? Finite categories. What are the two categories? What are the categories of gender? We have male and female. And I always say this in class, that we are living in a world where gender now has been changed to something else. People now give different classification of gender. We have more than two. But in the traditional sense, we just have male and female. And so When you assign, you have to assign a code 1 to any of them. I say 1 to any because you can assign 1 to female or you assign 1 to male. In no way do this 1 stands for what? Order or hierarchy. Rather, if you give 1 to female and you give 2, it doesn't matter. You can give 0 and 1. You can give 5 and 6 or 5 and 20. There are just representations, right? Now, a variable like age, we said age in ages. And now ages is a continuous variable. It's not a categorical variable if we ask in ages. Your age can be 5 years, your age can be 20 years, your age can be 20.1, 20.2, 20.3, and whatsoever. So because there are infinite possibilities in our variables, we prefer to take the variable as a continuous variable. And so we assign ages that respondents should respond to the questions based on what? Their actual ages. Now, another alternative you could have done is to assign age range. And if you assign age range, what you discover will be that your variable will no more be a continuous variable or a categorical variable. Your variable now will be what? Will not be a continuous, will be a categorical. For instance, if I say ages and I say less than 20 years, don't mind my handwriting. I say less than 20 years. 21 to 30. 31 plus. Let's assume those are our 3 categories of ages that we have. So what you'll notice is that now you can assign codes. For instance, I can say less than 20, I'll give the value 1. 2 will be for this category. And then we have 3 will be for this category. So you discover that your variable now changes from being a continuous variable to a categorical variable, right? So your variable changes from being a continuous variable to a categorical variable, in which case you can now assign codes. From being a categorical variable, and I believe you understand. Now, once this has been done, you have to do same for the other variables that we have. And in this case, we basically have the variables education, ICT, and agriculture. And now the respondents were given the choice to decide which level of agreement they have. Yes, they had the possibility to choose. And so we assign codes for this. For those who say strongly agree, since we are measuring the level of agreement, we need to classify. For those who say strongly agree, we strongly agree with this, we give them the value . We give them the value 1. For those who say strongly disagree, we give them the value 1. Moderately agree, we give them the value 2. And right up to strongly agree, which is 6. So we have assigned, these are what we call codes. And so these codes help us to input our data in SPSS. Now this is our data now that has been collected. You've collected your data and you find it in this format. I know you have to come now. You see that when you see 1 here, you automatically understand that is what? Male. If you see 1 again, it means this is a male respondent. If you see 2, indicates a female respondent. And so we are saying that the 3rd respondent, based on these are IDs, we have assigned numbers. We have 10 respondents, we have assigned them numbers, and so as IDs. And so our 3rd respondent is a male who is 33 years of age, who moderately disagree that the government should increase expenses on ICT, who strongly agree that the government should increase expenses for education, moderately agree, and who strongly agree that the government should increase expenses for agriculture. That is just looking at our data, we're able to get that information, though we have the figures. But these figures, since we are the ones that have assigned them, we can actually make out what the people are saying. So having said that, I don't know if there is any question, any worry, you can always write to me, you can send a question. And please, I would love us to excuse me. So somebody says she cannot access. Any question, you can raise your hand and I'll quickly respond to that. So if we have understood what is there, then I can move on to the next thing. So just indicate, you can indicate on the discussion on the WhatsApp or okay. Junior asks if we must design a code book before we collect our data. Must you design a code book before analyzing your data? Yes, it's not a must, but it's needful and it's necessary. It's not a must, but it's needful. We cannot say that it's a must, but one thing you will know is that it's necessary for prepare a code guide. It helps you because when you must have inputted your data, you may not have access to the questionnaire anymore. Please just help us mute yourself in order to ensure that we don't have sound in our background. The lady that just, Madam Murray, just mute yourself for us, please, so that we, but I want us to join with our videos. I don't know what we'll do, but I prefer that we use videos when we are joining. We don't join anonymous, so that we should be able to familiarize ourselves. I really recommend that that should be the approach that we'll practice. So Madam Murray, if you can mute yourself, it'll be good for us. So having said that, we get back to class. Now, once you prepare the code guide, what normally prevails most of the times is that, let me just open a Microsoft Excel here. So what normally prevails is that we have our data. And so once I have my data, be it a questionnaire or whatever technique I'm using, what I would do is I prefer to input the data in Excel. I don't input the data directly in SPSS. The reason why I choose Excel is from experience that I've discovered that over time, most often when you input your data, there are moments you find that the data quickly gets corrupted. Junior, thank you for joining with your video. It's important. The data easily gets corrupted. And so once the data gets corrupted, it becomes problematic for us to be able to retrieve it. And so it becomes very, very vital for us to be able to use the data input in Excel before we continue. Now, once you input your data, like I said, getting back to our code guide, which we have here, I open my Excel sheet. This is my Excel sheet. So I will put Q1 just for practice purpose. Q1 here simply means question 1. I can put Q1. For me, it represents question 1. Otherwise, I can put, let's say the first one is ID, yes, which stands for ID number of the participants. And so I put gender. You have the right, you reserve the right to either give your actual names, or you choose to do it to abbreviate. For me, I can use Q1. When I use Q1, I understand that Q1 stands for question 1, right? I go to the next question, which talk about age. I can put the age. I understand that that's my age. Or if I put Q2, I know that Q2 on my questionnaire stands for age, so I put age. The next one is talking about ICT. I put ICT, ICT. I put education. I put education. It doesn't matter whether you put caps or that. And I put the last aspect is agriculture. You can abbreviate it. You can put in for whatever method you choose. I think you must remember that these are the courses that you have assigned. Now, just to say a few things before we move on, the first thing you notice is that based on this, gender is column B. So once we are in Excel, everything in the column represents variable. Columns represent variables and rows represent participants, observations. So you may have 100 observations, which means you might have 100 participants in the study. If it's a questionnaire in this particular case, then we have 100 respondents, or for now we have 10. So I can just put my 1 here, 2, 3, and so if I want to be fast, I just send it. I have 10. I have 10. It stands for my respondents IDs. And so if I input my data just at random without following any pattern, sorry, since we are doing, let me say 2, 2, 2, maybe 1, 1, 1, 2, 2. And so we come to age, you just put ages at random. You do same for all the responses based on what they're giving. So you understand that along this column, everything represents gender. Here, everything represents age. Ages can be 5, can be 10, or 20, can be 30, can be 40, can still be something 45, 42, what have you, right? So for this one, can be agree, agree, disagree, disagree, too, and these are your puts. So at the end of the day, you may have your data, something of this nature. You should be able to have your data of this nature. This is my, let's assume this to be my data. Just give me some few seconds. Just copy, or I just type it to save us time. Same as the option is disturbing. So, and so I have this. Oh, I have something wrong here. This is agree, so we don't expect to see some strange values there. Any value above 5 or 6 should tell us that there's a problem. So let me just check to see that nobody has challenged. So what we have here now is that this is your data, well saved, and you are okay. Please, yes, for the coding, this is just, I did something at random. I'm not following any pattern. I just want to see, to indicate to you how you can input your data, how you can code your data. So don't try to just modify, but if you see some abnormal codes there, The issue is not the perfect nature of what we are doing. These are just examples, fictitious data, right? We're just creating the data, so we're not working to. So let's assume that this is your data. Basically, this is your data. And so any challenge you are facing, you indicate so that I try to resolve that. You can do it in the platform or wherever you do it. So we see, this is your data. At this particular stage, I save it. You can save it. Let me just save somewhere on my desktop. I have access to my desktop and I put class online of today. I just save that. This is my data in Excel. Now you need to import this data to SPSS because your data may be in the SPSS format. If it's already in Excel format, you need to import it to Excel. But however, before we actually talk more on how you will manage the data in Excel or in SPSS, let's get back to SPSS while we study the concepts that are found in SPSS. Now you need to note what we have done because we'll come back there to use it for practice exercises, and you should be able to understand that. So assuming that we all have our SPSS with us and we know how to open, but if you don't know how to open your SPSS, I'm using Windows 10, I don't know which one you're using, you can go to the search menu and type SPSS. If I type SPSS, I have the potentials to see will come up and I click. Or you go to start menu, you see various programs, you scroll. If you're using it, you see IBM SPSS statistics, you click. Now you have different options, different things. You take the one IBM statistics, yours can be version 20, 21, 22, 25, 26, 27, or whichever version you're using. So you click and you open. Now, because SPS is a little bit a heavy program, it will take some time, and how long it takes also depends on the speed of your machine or your laptop or your computer, whatever you're using. And so it will take some minutes, especially if you are running multiple programs as I'm doing right now, you may discover that it will take a longer period. So assuming that we have opened, that's why I wanted people to be, so that moments we can share your screen with me and I see. Assuming that your SPSS has opened, you need to have something like this. Unfortunately, I just closed one window that popped up since I was opening it. But once you see various possibilities. Let me go back there to indicate something so that it can be of importance, something which is of importance to you. So let's just wait and see as it opens. Let me see. Might need to close the whole thing. Restart the process so that you get it. There's something I want to indicate. So, and I think it's necessary. Okay. Let's assume that this is your Windows when you're opening your program. If you're opening it for the first time, you still see this. If you're opening it multiple times, you see it is. What I wanted to show is that SPSS has given us data in a system for practice purposes. So we have recent files. This helps you to see some recent documents. Your interface may be a bit slightly different from mine if you're using an older version, but at the end of the day, we have maybe basically the same key information. We have sample files. If you click on sample files, you see different file types. This is data provided by SPSS, but you can use it for practice. Yes, the question is that some students may find it challenging. If I don't have data, I don't have access to data that I can use. For instance, I'm excited to take data on adverts. If I click data, or let's say bank loan, let's open, you double click on it, it will open. Okay, so this is data. This data has been provided by SPS for our usage. So once you have the data, you can use it, right? So that's the first thing that I just needed to indicate. Now, I don't want to work with this data, and I actually want us to understand the interface of SPSS. We should be able to understand the interface of SPSS. So I'll take Control N. I press Control on my keyboard and I press N to open a new tab or a new Windows of my program. Are we there? So I assume that we're together. So SPS, like any other application that you open, there are some basic things you need to know. There are some basic things you should see, right? And once you open, the first thing you will see, whatever, we can call it the interface, which is the entire presentation of the application. As you look at it, you see the entire presentation of the application, and you discover that SPS Confly is similar to Excel, if you have seen Excel, because SPS presents its files in a form of what? A spreadsheet. Such dimension of documents are called spreadsheets. Excel sheets are called spreadsheets, and so SPSS. Now you automatically notice that we have rows and columns. Here we have rows which are numbered 1, 2, 3, and columns are var. In this case, var stands for variable. Do we get that? Now, this is what you'll notice. The next thing you'll notice again is that we have data view and variable view. Data view, variable view. SPSS has different views. It has the data view and the variable view. And so, with the data view, this is where you actually input your data. So the data we initially inputted here, we can come and copy it now. We can copy our data now and take it to. I'm just indicating what you can do to put it here, right? So I prefer you just follow what I'm saying. Even if you wanted to be practicing now, it may be challenging for you to practice because we'll get to the practice stage, but understand what I'm saying first because it's important. Now we have the data view and the variable view. Let's start with the variable view. But before we go to the variable view, let's look at the top. Once you open SPSS application, by default, it gives a name. And the name is always untitled. Maybe I have untitled 2 because I think I have 2 documents open with that names. I have untitled 1, which was an output. And so I have untitled 2. I don't have a name. If I give a name to this document by saving it, then this name, whatever name I assign to it, will replace this untitled here that I have untitled 2. Below, directly before the untitled, which is the title of the document, I have file, I have edit, I have view, I have data, I have transform, analyze, graph, utilities, extension, windows, help. I hope we see that. Now, your own application may be slightly different. I keep insisting. But you see that whether different or same, some of these basic principles will remain the same. You must have analyze, you must have data, you have transform. You have graphs, they may not be directly the same, and you have the head, and maybe windows. So now, these different menus and menu buttons, we'll look at some of them, not all. We'll see file, its utilization, we see edit, we have view, we have data. We use data for a good number of things before we are done with our course. We see transformation, we also use transformation to transform your data into different. We see analyze, we use analyze. We'll do a bit, I think our key focus will be on analyze. And under analyze, we have different statistical techniques that we'll see. I'm sure, and I hope you did print out the course, the student guide. Even if you did not print the student guide, you should be able to review what we'll cover in the class. And most of that, we have it here. So the next thing is that we have this also, the sub-menu. I call it just the sub-menu. You may have a better name for that. That have similar buttons. So it's like quick tap, toolbar or so. I don't know the name, but forgotten the name. you can use it to do whatever you want to do with your data. So let's come back now to the variable view and take each and explain. Under the variable view, this is where you define your variables and their properties. What did I say? You have to define your variables here and their properties. And in this case, each variable has different properties that it can possibly take. We have the name, the type, the width, decimals, label, values, missing, column, align, measure, and row. These functions help us to define certain parameters about the variables, whatever variable we're dealing with. And so this is where you actually have to give the attributes of your variable. For instance,